PT, welcome to our version of and display of the anterior reach with the lower extremity driver assessment and treatment. The anterior reaches with the lower extremity driver are some of my favorite go-tos in terms of rehabilitating, prehabilitating, and using as a performance enhancement technique and maneuver with progressions to sequence the right biomechanical phenomenon to take place during the TZ1 or the TZ2 cycle of gait for walking and running, and for all of our level change progressions, as well as for our throwing, swinging, hitting type activities. So what you're going to do, we're anchored here on the functional assessment grid. Driven on out, every 45-degree angle is mapped on out centimeter-wise, because centimeters is way more accurate than what inches are. So to get this this kind of train rolling, in further episodes of the anterior reach lower extremity videos that we're going to be taking a look at, we're going to be adding progressions to this. Right now I want to get our feet wet, kind of share with you why I use what I do, and share my kind of sequence of progressions and stuff like that. So why we do this, for hundreds and thousands of reasons, based on what's going on at the foot and the ankle and or the hip and what we want to take place. So to get us started, it's important that this base foot, so my left foot is always pointed at 12 o'clock on a clock, always. Right hand is going to be using the dowel to kind of give us a little guidance and a little assistance to give us a good drive with the lower extremity as well as the upper extremity. So we're going anterior straight in the sagittal plane first. It's my way and my opportunity to take a look at and assess how an individual is loading up that talar curl joint and that mid-tarsal joint in the sagittal plane. So how much dorsiflexion am I getting? Taking a look at the heel, am I getting any whipping? Or now we're obviously getting frontal plane and transverse plane motion as well, but we'll add that tweak in a second with the lower extremity. So what I'm going to do next is, with the upper extremity, add a transverse plane reach in sync. Pelvis and scapulothoracic joint, that shoulder girdle, are rotating in the same direction as the pelvis. So as my right lower extremity drives in the sagittal plane and takes out the slack in the sagittal plane, I'm starting to drive that medial rotation from the top down, so the tibia and the fibula really gap in that mortise, so the tibia and the fibula separate, and the tibia takes off from the fibula a little bit, so that we get good separation, good translation of that tibia up and over kind of the talus to unlock that mid-tarsal joint, the separation of the rear foot and the midfoot. Matt, what's up, bud? Go ahead and take a seat, bud, and watch. Go ahead and sit right here. So we can go with our rotation and reaches, we can add in sync, we can go anywhere from 30 degrees to 120 degrees. It really depends on how much we're able to kind of wind up that patient based on the mobility that they're displaying, the compensatory mechanisms that they're displaying. We'll also add a little frontal plane kind of reach before we transition into our pendy swings, our 3D pendy swings. So what we're going to do in the sagittal plane, just trying to work around the chaos of the little man in here a second. What I'm going to do with my anterior drive with the lower extremity is drive in the sagittal plane. I'm now in the frontal plane, just going to add a little frontal plane, kind of swing and reach to get that calcaneus to evert to basically propel this chain reaction, to get the talus to drop down and in, to get the good eversion in the frontal plane of the mid-tarsal joint, all from kind of the top down. So I'll take a stance kind of back into the center here a second. And what I'm going to do, come on back, bud. Yeah, come on back. Come on up. Doing a little taping. What we'll do next, so I'll use that commonly for some TZ1 type stuff. I really love the anterior medial kind of reach. So 45-degree angle, dropping my butt down over this left lower extremity, and as my right leg drives in that anterior medial plane 45 degrees, my left upper extremity is just going to go with a little reach in that same direction. So now essentially I'm taking a good severe look at the sequencing of dorsiflexion and eversion. Hey buddy, what's up? And so what I'm going to do is with the right arm, he's our guidance over here, it really allows me to get into kind of the stance with a nice little touchdown kind of with the heel. A little touchdown with the heel. I can add a little more of a transverse plane, kind of upper extremity driver to really facilitate that dorsiflexion as well as that eversion from the top down. We'll go with a little frontal plane kind of sequencing, kind of a little frontal plane reach to really continue to spark kind of that eversion of the calcaneus, that eversion of the mid-tarsal joint and of the subtalar joint as that tibia is translating anteriorly up and over the talus. We've talked about how it's kind of that pyramid shape. The deeper we go into that dorsiflex position, the wider the dome of the talus gets, which provides more of a stable type environment. With these now, we'll add a little pendy swing. So we'll go anterior, we'll go anterior medial. So now we'll get a little more dynamic and load it a little bit faster. So I'll go with a little 3D pendy swing, transverse plane, in sync, kind of rotation and reach. And now we'll go frontal plane, so a little bit faster to really, really load that eversion of the subtalar joint and of the mid-tarsal joint. We'll then go anterior medial with it. So a little transverse plane, little swing. As you know, my left foot has faced you the entire time. It is not rotating or moving out at all. So we're essentially, with all these, taking up the slack in the system, and we're facilitating a little more mobility with our top-down drivers. What we'll do next, so with our straight medial reach, we've gone anterior medial, we've gone anterior, we'll go medial, we'll go posterior medial. Straight medial, I'm looking a little bit more just straight frontal plane, although there's a lot of sagittal plane and transverse plane things occurring. It's my way to assess a little bit how that subtalar joint and that mid-tarsal joint a little bit more kind of responding together. So with the down on the right arm yet, what I'll do with that left foot face you, we're going straight to the side, 90-degree angle with our medial reach. With the right foot and our in-sync rotation and medial reach with the left upper extremity. We can add a little more rotation to it. So as I drop my butt down and in, transverse plane, I can also go with this, the left upper extremity, a little bit more of a top-down frontal plane driver to really facilitate and overload that subtalar joint and mid-tarsal joint in the frontal plane. We'll next go to a posterior medial reach. With him, I'll pre-position the right upper extremity back and on out. Anything from 90 degrees and over is good. We're going 35-degree angle back and to the right. Again, anterior, anterior medial, medial, posterior medial. We're looking at really facilitating that TZ1 of gait and level changes. So what we'll do now, we're going to go posterior medial rotation and reach with the right foot, left upper extremity driver with the transverse plane. Matt, what's up, buddy? Everybody loves the functional grid. We go a little frontal plane now. We go a little frontal plane, just kind of reach. Little frontal plane reach, and now we'll go with our pendy swings. Transverse plane, transverse plane, transverse plane again, nice gentle little heel touch, and now we'll go frontal plane. Frontal plane and frontal plane. For TZ2, so TZ2 sequencing at the foot and the ankle when the left leg is the back foot. Hey bud, hold on 1 second, we're almost done. Left foot is pointed 12 o'clock on a clock. We're going to switch hands, so ipsilateral between the left lower extremity, left upper extremity for the support. Right upper and right lower extremity are going to be our drivers and our sequencers now to drive this TZ2, the sequencing of dorsiflexion and inversion at the foot and the ankle kind of complex. We're going to go a anterior lateral reach. So with that, right upper extremity is just going with our reach, and our right heel is going with our touchdown. As you know, left foot is pointed towards you. It's typical on a lot of this sequence-wise, compensatory mechanism-wise, is that there's a lot going on at the foot and the ankle. The hip that enables the body to compensate in a plane a little bit more than another. So transverse plane over frontal plane or sagittal. So what we'll do now, we'll add an in-sync transverse plane driver to really help facilitate that lateral rotation of the tibia and the fibula to grab and yank the talus up and in with kind of the descent and the control of kind of that right lower extremity driving, helping to drive the inversion. And then we'll also go frontal plane. Matt, come here, bud. Come out of the way. We're almost done. Come here. Maverick, come here. It's a very enthusiastic little adventurous and explorer. Good, Matt. Good. How about we'll play in your playground in just a second, buddy. We'll go climb the retaining walls. So we did our transverse plane, top-down driver, and then now frontal plane. So frontal plane and frontal plane, frontal plane and frontal plane. There you have it, guys. Those are our anterior reaches for lower extremity drivers, with upper extremity drivers kind of sequenced on in. I love to add the upper extremity driver because it really helps to facilitate mobility of the hips and the transverse plane by either kind of taking out the glutes, and it's easy to right there, taking him in by overloading kind of that left posterior hip capsule and that left posterior and lateral lumbopelvic hip complex. We will then kind of take the transverse plane out when we're going anterior, anterior medial, medial, and posterior medial with our drivers. We can get a little more fancy with it if we want to, and instead of going just 45, we'll go straight kind of 90 as well with our upper extremity driver and with our lower extremity driver. We'll go with our pendy swings in the transverse plane and in the frontal plane. We're going to show you some tweaks here in just a second, using some wedges to kind of block the mid-tarsal joint, tail curl joint, facilitate a little more mobility. Play around with these guys. These guys are legit. These guys are the real deal. Have fun.